Welcome to session 3 of European Entrepreneurship and Innovation Speaker Series. You're probably expecting Dr. Burton Lee to be standing here right now. Unfortunately, Burton was taken ill last night and is in hospital right now, so we wish him well. And so you have to deal with a stand-in, which is me, so you've got to accept all the errors and omissions that I'm about to make. My name is Stuart Coulson. I'm a consulting associate professor at the D.School. I have worked with Burton on some of the work that he's doing, and I have been involved and I've been an audience member in this class. Today we're going to look at some of the two countries in particular. We're going to look at Sweden and Slovenia. And as Burton's map shows, this is ticking off more of the boxes in terms of coverage of European countries. Burton showed this picture last week, which I thought was pretty intriguing. This is a picture of all the provinces in Europe, or all of the discrete areas. And in most of these cases, entrepreneurial activity occurs in most of these countries at that level as opposed to at the country level. So I thought it was nice to juxtaposition it there with the picture of the countries of Europe. Our speakers today will include information and talk about their activities in terms of being both a professor and a spin-out entrepreneur at a Swedish university, about being a CEO, co-founder, and director of an incubator. And we'll also hear from one of the sponsors of this series, Anne Lidgard, who's been VINNOVA Silicon Valley director. Burton always encourages everybody to go and visit the websites. And so here are the websites of two of our speakers. The themes for today are similar to what we've been pursuing, what the class has been pursuing to date. We're continuing to look at personal journeys of the individual entrepreneurs, academics, their entrepreneurial activity, how European innovation is being supported, and how they are dealing with the innovation issues in Europe, and also the comparison between those activities in Europe and activities in Silicon Valley. With that, I would like to hand over to the first speaker, coming from our partner, VINNOVA. It's Anne Lidgard, and I will just get her presentation up and running.
So I will, during the next 5 to 10 minutes, try to give you a little bit of an introduction to Sweden and to the Swedish innovation system. This, I have to say, is a huge challenge for me, because usually this would probably take an hour or two. But I'll see what I can do. And please see this more as an appetizer, and feel free to contact me afterwards, and I can go more into details. So this is a little bit of a teaser, part of maybe a bigger smorgasbord, which is, of course, another one of our exports. So Sweden, we're a country of 9 million people. We're about the size of California. And we're part of the Nordic countries, which altogether are roughly about a market of 25.5 million people. First, I'd just like to show you a few pictures which may often be associated to what people think about Sweden. You see the Vikings. We have a long tradition of international outlook. Ever since the Vikings, out to explore Russia, to a great involvement in the United Nations. This is also symbolic of going from a rather violent country to a very peaceful country. We've been at peace now for 200 years. Also a country of the outdoors, winter sports, but also of the wonderful the Stockholm archipelago, for instance. Swedes are nature-loving people. Nobel Prize, I know that many people from Stanford visit Stockholm every year on the 10th of December. You can just see that on the pictures in the faculty club. Many very excellent Stanford laureates at the Nobel Prize festivities every year. And up to the right, also lots of innovations, but also in the social sector. Now we have about I think over 70% of the dads are now, actually they do take parental leave, and which leads, of course, progressively to a greater gender equality and greater diversity in general in Sweden. And of course, ABBA. I mean, I could put up many, many pictures of different music groups, but let's just choose ABBA for one. But there are also other ways that Sweden has spread around the world. We have some of the largest number of global companies per capita, and I'm sure you recognize many of these brands. Many based on technologies, but also other types. You have IKEA, which is just down the road, and East Palo Alto, H&M clothing, and many other companies that I'm sure you've seen and you've come across. But there are also some inventions, some innovations that you may know, but maybe not always know that they came from Sweden. So, you know, I'm quite proud actually here, proud, but at the same time very humble, because you have to remember that we're just a very, very small population again. Sweden has just about 14% of the world's population. And another fact which may be interesting to know, that just 100 years ago, Sweden was a very, very poor country. I mean, we were one of the poorest countries in Europe, and a very large part of the population felt the need to emigrate, and most of them actually came here to North America, which also can be seen in names like Coulson, Nordstrom. You know, all these Swedish-sounding names have actually contributed to the US economy in some ways. That was not the first time that Swedes came to America. The first Swedes came already in 1648 and founded the colony of New Sweden, which later became Delaware. But that's another story. I can tell you more about that some other time. So over these 100 years, what happened? Well, we did profit very much from being at peace during the 2 world wars, which led to a very strong economy, post-war strong economy. This may also led to a lot of social reforms, which in the end became very, very costly. And in the beginning of 1990, Sweden's economy was really, really in bad shape. I mean, you think of Greece, that was, you know, very similar to what we actually had in Sweden. We had an inflation rate over a few weeks, which was over 500%. So that led to a bunch of reforms, deregulating of the market, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that's a whole lecture in and by itself. And now, over the past, 14 years, we can actually say that we've had quite a strong, stable economy, which has also led to some, you know, interesting, to a good basis for new companies and new innovations to arise. See inflation rate and GDP growth. So even though I stand here very proud, I mean, you always have to remember that you have to be humble, because again, Sweden is a very small country, and come on, next slide. The competition is steadily increasing. So one can be proud, but one should also be paranoid. And countries are rapidly catching up, you know, in terms of research and innovation and everything. So we have to keep on our toes and have a political focus on some of the important items that create a good grounds for innovation. Part, of course, education. You have to keep investing in education, infrastructure. Sweden was very early to expand its internet infrastructure, and that's also one of the reasons why you also see many, I should stand here, okay, many companies that have been involved in also internet-related businesses. This is where we go. And then, of course, investing in research and innovation. And I can go into some of the numbers, but let me just also mention this about internationalization. This is, I think, another important factor of the Swedish culture, is that we've always been very open towards other countries. This is when a delegation from China visited the founder of Ericsson, LM Ericsson, in the early 90s. It was 1904 or something. And I think Ericsson delivered the first 2,000 telephones to Shanghai in 1896, something like that. So just a piece of history there. If you look at Swedish companies and also the Swedish way, it's to some sense very non-hierarchical, which opens up possibility also for new ideas and for a lot of, you know, with the delegated responsibility, you can get things done. It's a culture of trust, which means that very quickly you can get different partners to collaborate also, and not just, you know, business, but between government and university and business, what's sometimes referred to triple helix. Just to give you a few numbers, Sweden has, over the past years, been known to be a country that's usually in the top of these lists when it comes to investment in R&D in relationship to GDP. You see Israel, Finland, Korea are above us. We have had this reduced, especially from the business side, or I would say on the business side in the past years. This has by and large been partly due to companies like AstraZeneca leaving now Sweden and going elsewhere. So this is, again, this is where we can't just sit back and think that we can surf our way into the future. We have to be really paranoid and realize that competition is going to be really fierce in the future. And we have to find ways of replacing these, the larger companies and the R&D with a new floor of smaller companies that can grow. Innovation and Competitiveness Index. Also, we rank usually very high, but if you look a little bit closer at the numbers, we're usually very high on the input side, but when it comes to a little output, we do rank lower. If you look at, for instance, innovators and economic effects. This is sometimes referred to part of the Swedish paradox. You may say that 10, it's lower, and I think Peter is going to go in a little bit more about that. Which shows that we still have a lot of room for improvement in Sweden. We have to look at these things closely and work at it from all sides, not least from a government policy side. VINNOVA, just briefly, my organization, the Swedish Innovation Agency. We have a budget of about $350 million per year. This is in grants, which means that we don't take stake in companies or in projects. Our return on investment is supposedly to come through taxes in some future time. We have made a lot of impact analysis on the programs that have been taking place over a long year, and we do see that we have a substantial return on investment, which is encouraging and which also led to an increase in budget this year, which was very nice. 200 people, we have offices in Stockholm, small office in Brussels, and now also an office here in Silicon Valley as of August of last year. What do we do? Well, we have a whole menu of different programs, both investing in R&D, research and innovation projects. These are often co-funded by industry or by academia. We go in with half. We really try to work with the small and medium-sized companies, both in domestic programs, but also take part in the European programs. Global links, where we have bilateral agreements with certain countries to engage in innovation activities. We're the policy development arm of the Swedish ministry and the Swedish government when it comes to innovation policy. And not least, I'd like to mention that we are building up a very good infrastructure for innovation, which we are very, very interested in also opening up to partnerships and to collaboration with all sorts of people around the world. So please keep this in mind. Test Site Sweden. Sweden is a place where you can go and try new things, you can innovate, you can use our infrastructure. Sweden is a very interesting test market because we are early adopters and we like to try new things. So please keep that in mind. Universities, of course, very big part of, an important part of the innovation system. First one was founded in 1477. And also I'd like to, just for you students, many courses are taught in English. So please, if you're interested, look into the type of programs where you can go and study, maybe for a year or so in Sweden. Another important part of the innovation system are the incubators and the science parks. Here's a map of them. This, again, I can go into more details. I think Peter will mention a little bit about how they work. This is also, of course, an area where you need to improve and just get more efficient. And I think we have a lot to learn from what's happening over here in Silicon Valley and also from other countries in Europe and elsewhere. Again, some names. These are investments that were made in Sweden. Some acquisitions. Lately, Facebook, they are installing a huge data center up in the north of Sweden, etc. And also, before I stop, I just want you to keep an eye out for these brands. There's some anticipated billion US dollar exits maybe coming up. And then there's some very, very interesting prospects also. I just put down a few names of what's happening, what's in the pipe. SenionLabs, of course, you'll hear from soon with Peter here. And let me just finish with this slide, just a little bit food for thought. If you look at the globe from a slightly different angle than you're used to, this is with the North Pole in the center. Remember Sweden, technologically advanced. We have a skilled and well-educated population. We have societal values, which I think I'm quite proud of in many aspects, with openness, peaceful, sustainable living, not least. And maybe we are strategically located sometime in the future. Remember, the ice is melting, So thank you very much. This was, I don't know if I kept my time, but thank you very much for listening.
Okay, our next speaker is Peter Bunus. He is another example that we've concentrated on in this series of simultaneously an entrepreneur, startup entrepreneur, and a university professor. He will tell his story.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much, Anne, for the wonderful introduction about Sweden. So I'm going to actually build on top of that presentation and give you a little bit more insight about how is to build a company in Sweden. And of course, so since I'm also a professor, or I was a professor, so I would like to tell you a little bit more about how to combine entrepreneurship with the academic life. And first of all, so I would like to tell you that this talk is going to be for you, the students. And please interrupt me, so ask questions during the talk. So it's much more better to have a dialogue than instead of having a monologue, right? So my name is Peter Bunus. So I'm the co-founder of SenionLab. So this is actually my third company. I might be one of these kind of serial entrepreneurs. And all of the three companies actually had a similar story. So they were funded by the governmental agency VINNOVA. And from the beginning, and we were starting to build highly academic companies. So actually, the research, it's based from academic research that we are trying actually to identify, bring it out for the university, and create a company, teach the faculty, so how to create a company, and also to bring more value into the country. Well, a little short introduction about the company. So what we are doing, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So we are actually in the mobile business, so trying to solve the $5 billion problem of indoor positioning and indoor location. So many of you probably had the problem of finding this lecture hall. So actually, we are trying to bring a technology that is non-GPS based, so that will help you with the help of a mobile phone to find your way inside the building. So it's got to be based on the sensors that you have on the mobile phone. And actually, when I'm looking at this, so I can see many PhD theses and many struggling and the nights of works of all our students and our faculty members, so that we are trying actually to bring into that particular technology. So we have a main office in Linköping, Sweden. So we also have an office here in Palo Alto. So by the way, so Linköping and Palo Alto, they are sister cities. So, and that's why sometimes you can see pictures of me and the mayor of Palo Alto so together. So, as I mentioned, so we received a grant seed funding from VINNOVA, the Swedish governmental agency for innovation system. And in order to complete the answer to your question, actually, so this money actually helped us to bootstrap the company and to bring it today what we are right now. So here. So it was a very helpful start for us. But as I said, well, I'm here not to tell you about what a wonderful technology we have developed during this all these years. So I'm pretty sure that it's an interesting story. So I can tell you more about offline. So I'm here actually to tell you what does it mean to be an academic entrepreneur. And by academic entrepreneur, so I mean an entrepreneur that actually has been working before in a university, or so somebody who is still working at the university and trying to combine it with the academic entrepreneurship. Let me, before entering into details, so just to set up the stage a little bit. And Anne already mentioned a little bit about the Global Competitiveness Index. And let's compare a little bit the United States and Sweden. So probably the numbers, they are too little here to read it. But the idea here is that in the global competitiveness, so United States has the rank of 5, so and Sweden will rank in the position number 3. So Singapore and Switzerland, so they are behind us. So we are very close to each other, right? So Sweden competitiveness to the American competitiveness. The GDP per capita, so it's very similar for both countries. So it's around 47,000, 48,000 US dollars. So again, so our contribution, it's again very, very similar. So we are very, very similar in many, many aspects. So now if we are proceeding forward and looking at these two graphs, so now you can see that, well, there is one thing that actually it's outside the graph. Hey, can you notice it? Something that there is a difference, and it's the market size, right? So Anne already mentioned that, well, we are 9 million people, so approximately 25 million people in Scandinavia. So obviously our market, it's much more smaller than the US market. So the market size, it's going to be very, very different. So, and pretty much, this is the reason why Swedish entrepreneurs are coming to the Silicon Valley. So, and it's not the climate, so believe me. So we really like snow and we really like the cold weather. So, pretty much that's the main reason of coming here. So because of the market size. I was talking also about the academic entrepreneurship. So let's try to examine a little bit what does it actually mean. So, and usually in Sweden, so when we are talking about academic entrepreneurship, so there are 3 major players that are involved. So it's the academia, obviously, so the government and the industry. And in the academia, so you have the education sector, so you have the research part, and obviously there are many, many universities that now they are trying to promote the concept of entrepreneurial universities. So you will have another dimension of entrepreneurship as part of it. So please pay attention to the overlapping of these circles. So because it's very important. So what Anne was trying to present you, so during the first part of the presentation, is that overlapping that we have between the academia and the government, right? What I'm going to try to present you is that overlapping, so that small part that we have, the overlapping between academia, entrepreneurship, government, and industry. So it's a very, very tiny part, so that you really, as an academic entrepreneur, so you really need to be very, very carefully to balance that. So, and to have insight of how the government is working, how the industry is working, and also how the university is working. So, and that's what it makes extremely difficult to be an academic entrepreneur. So to balance that little part. What do you think? So academic entrepreneurship. So based on the definition that I gave you, is it popular in Sweden or not? So do you have a hunch or just a guess? No?
I would say it's in vogue, but I would say it's not a very popular choice.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's not a very popular choice. So that brings me to a debate that you have here in the United States. So it's the magical number of 1%. So 1% of what? So it's 1% actually, if you look at the numbers. So only 0.9% of all the academics become full-time entrepreneurs every year in Sweden. That's very disappointing, so from my perspective. So it's a very low number. So we would obviously like to have that more professors, more academics, so they are actually taking the way of entrepreneurship. More than that, so it's a negative selection into entrepreneurship. Those with lower pre-entry earnings are more likely to become entrepreneurs, right? So if you have a lower salary at the university, then you are more likely to become entrepreneurs. So you will not see many senior professors becoming entrepreneurs. Then in the end, so less than 1% of the academics obtaining capital gains higher than half of the average pre-entrepreneurship gainings. And that's also, well, there is no financial incipient so for the academics to start up a business, because statistically you will see that, well, the earnings, they are going to be pretty much similar. 1/4 of all the academics who became full-time entrepreneurs already operated as part-time entrepreneurs employed at the university. That's not very surprising. So that's many universities, they have special entrepreneurship programs. So I myself, so I started as an industrial PhD student, so always trying to actually to have this kind of double life. So industry, academia, and trying to combine these two issues. So actually I was trained for doing that. So for me, it's not a surprise. Another surprising fact is that, well, 60% of full-time entrepreneurs within 2 years, and they quit the entrepreneurship. And that means that it's a very seasonal activity. So they actually trying it out. So they don't simply have the patience of continuing, and after 2 years, so they are returning to the university. That's also very extremely worrisome. Well, so pretty much there are several fashion trends for Swedish academic entrepreneurs. So this is actually what you would like to wear here in Silicon Valley. So I know that hoodie is very popular, but back in Sweden, so I can actually proudly wear this T-shirt. So I'm the 1%, right? So it's really sad, but definitely this is a T-shirt for myself. So that brings me actually to one question that somebody asked Steve Jobs a long time ago. So they asked Steve, so do you have an innovation process at your company? And Steve's answer was, well, we don't have a process for innovation. We hire good people, right? Now, if you're asking me the slightly the same question, so do we have an European academic entrepreneurship system? I would probably answer you, yeah, we don't have an European academic entrepreneurship system. So, but we hire good people, right? Even if we are 1%, so we think that we can make that impact so that it actually will make a change in the world. So what are the challenges actually for an academic entrepreneur? So first of all, so let's see some of the issues that I consider that they are extremely important. And challenge number one would be how to be disruptive actually. Without risking your academic career. Those who are professors and those who are working in academia, you know what I mean, right? So you simply cannot be very bold when it comes to research. So you are building on incremental research, so you need to motivate every step and base it on a previous step so that you have done before. Well, this brings me actually to a very nice story of Alice in the Wonderland. And she said that there is no use trying. So one can believe in impossible things. Well, this is pretty impressive, right? So You have no idea so how many times I heard that from my students, from my fellow professors, my fellow colleagues, and also in the entrepreneurship community. And what it's actually impressing me, so what it's really disturbing about what Elle is trying to say is that she just passed through the mirror, right? She's somebody who would actually should be convinced that impossible things are really existing. And then this brings me actually to the Queen answer, so that says that I dare say that you haven't had much practice, so said the Queen. When I was younger, I always did for half an hour a day. Why sometimes I believed in as many as 6 impossible things before the breakfast, right? So pretty much your job as an academic entrepreneur will be so every day, so before the breakfast, to dream about 6 impossible things. And that's very hard. That's extremely hard to practice that. So what I'm trying to say is that you probably know Elon Musk. So when he said that I will land on Mars, a round-trip ticket, $500,000, it can be done, right? This is exactly how an entrepreneur should behave. So to be bold, right? So dream about that impossible thing of putting a man on the Mars with $500,000. Well, in academia, you simply cannot say that, right? So you need to be the previous research. So you need to sell your ideas also to the funding agencies, and it's very, very incremental. So you simply cannot be that bold. Why the entrepreneurship community will require that you should be extremely bold. Challenge number 1 is actually how to deal with the market risk, right? So when we are doing research in the university, usually you don't think about market. So you don't think about market risk. So sometimes you are doing research for the fun, right? Or do you think that, well, this is something that's going to be useful? And what I would like to show you is that the invention market risk graph. So here on the horizontal, you have the high market risk, and the vertical, so you have the high invention risk. And up there, so in the left upper corner, so you will see that, well, you will have personalized medicine, biotech, medical devices, clean tech, so that are actually categorized as being, as having a very high invention risk, right? While other domains like electronic design and automation, semiconductors, consumer electronics, computer software, so they will have a middle-sized high invention risk, and also they will have a high market risk, relatively high market risk. And that the other technologies like the web technology, for example, it will have a very high market risk and a very low invention risk. What I'm trying to say is that, well, medical research probably will involve a very high invention risk. It should not be confused that the invention risk is not the same as the innovation risk. But the idea here is that if you're lucky enough to find the cure for the cancer, right? So then the market adoption will automatically came. So as a researcher, you will not need to work in this area, right? So you find the medicine, so you find a cure for cancer, so the marketing, so you can sell that medicine, and automatically it can be done. Now think about this is what I call the low market risk. Now think about technologies like the 3D TV, right? Obviously it has a high innovation risk, but it also has a very high market risk. And it's a cool technology. I'm pretty sure that it involved the research of many people from the electrical engineering department or from the computer science department. But we still don't know that actually we like the technology or not. So still the market adoption, it was not very convincing. And then this is something that it has a very high invention risk, but also it's a high market risk. And what I'm trying to say is that, well, why you are in this part of the graph, so with the personalized medicine, biotech, medical device, healthcare, so where you have a very high invention risk. So pretty much your job at the university, it will be the same as your job as an entrepreneur. Because if you find a cure for cancer, so then the market adoption will automatically came, right? So you can still do the publishing at Science and Nature and so on, and these two activities will be overlapping. And here there are many, many companies like Gentrack, Amgen, Biogen, IDEC, Geron. They were founded by university professors. So you have a very high degree of university professors founding these kind of companies because it's so much overlapping with what you're actually doing at your research institute or at the university. Two of the founders, Walter Gilbert and Philip Sharp, so the founders of Biogen, they later won the Nobel Prize. So you can still found a company and still won a Nobel Prize. Well, if I'm going down to the slope, so this is what I actually call the dropout slide. So you will see that this industry is mostly dominated by dropouts. So Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Michael Dell. So they are electronics industry, computer science. So actually, it has the tendency of actually leaving the entrepreneur, the academic side. Challenge number 3, so is actually how to work countless hours outside the reward system. You probably remember my first graph, so showing the academia, the government, the industry, so the 3 major players. And what I can tell you is that the reward system, so at the university, it's based solely on education and research. So entrepreneurship, it's still seen like a hobby activity that you are supposed to do outside the university. So it's not part of the reward system. So you are not going to be promoted based on entrepreneurial activities, right? So you're going to be promoted on teaching activities and on research activities. So publishing papers, citation index, and so on. Challenge number 4. So this is what I call the Stockholm Syndrome. And let me quickly explain it to you. So what I mean is actually, this is a graph that shows that how business perceives the home country innovation environment. And as you can see here, we are ranking very high. So Sweden is right over there. So we are seeing the business environment also very favorable, right? Despite of the fact that, well, we will still need to do a little bit better. So we will need to have a little bit more than 1% of the academic entrepreneurs starting businesses. And for those of you who doesn't know what the Stockholm Syndrome is, so it describes actually the behavior of kidnapped victims for over the time, so they are actually become sympathetic with their captors. And this is based from a hostage incident in Stockholm, so in 1973, when at the end of the 6-day captivity in a bank, so several kidnapped victims actually resisted rescue attempts. It was also a movie about that, and it's a very interesting psychological phenomenon. Since I'm running out of the time, so I will go directly to challenge number 5. The challenge to which path to take, right? So obvious as an academic entrepreneur, so you will need to choose. So what it's going to be. So it's going to be education, research, or it's going to be entrepreneurship. And sometimes we really need to take that choice. That brings me again back to Alice. And there is another quote. So in which one day Alice came to a fork in the road and saw a Cheshire cat, and then she asked the cat, so which road do I take? And the cat was asking Alice, so where do you want to go? So Alice was answering, I don't know. then the cat answered, well, in that case, so it doesn't matter, right? So, actually, an academic entrepreneur knows exactly which road to take. So we know that very well. So from the beginning, so what we want and what we would like to do. So what we actually would prefer is that we just wish that it should be no actually fork in the road. That one road should be the continuation of the other road. That you will not be ever facing that fork in the road in which you need to take a decision. So which road to take. So, and personally, I think that that it would be much more beneficial for the entrepreneurship system, and especially for the academic entrepreneurship system, a system in which we don't need to take that choice. That would pretty much conclude my, my talk for today.
Thank you. We'll ask Peter to come back and take Q&A with Tomaž at the end. So I'd like to move from Sweden to Slovenia and ask Tomaž Frelih to come forward. Tomaž is going to talk to us about incubation and startup situations in Slovenia, I hope.
Okay. We think, let's face it, the university education system is broken. We know that since 13th century, when Cambridge was established, there's really not much changed in this education part of universities. As you know, university has two parts. One is this education part, and the other one is this research part. This research part you can handle here in Stanford pretty fine, but in Slovenia we are way behind. We have a problem with this research part as with this teaching part. And you know, things are changing pretty fast, and we think that this learning part from universities doesn't follow. So we think that we need more efficient, more effective approaches and new business models for the teaching, for this knowledge transfer from teachers to students and in between us. And what actually works? We started 3 years ago, and we were thinking, okay, I just graduated. What can we do? Can we put this research out of the university? How can the other do and we can't? Because in Slovenia, we have great researchers, a lot of research in the universities and institutes, but only a few companies that use this research. And we think that this is a great opportunity. We start with this artificial intelligence stormings, and we think how we can go to we can reach the singularity. This is one of our goals. And we think, okay, we need research. So this was actually our beginnings. And when I was in student years, the president of Slovenian Student Union, I traveled a lot around Southeast Europe, and I saw that also there was a lot of research on the institutes, and nothing came out especially. So we think that crucial thing for bringing this research out of university is a state of mind, and we don't have it. Here in Silicon Valley, everywhere you go, you're faced with this state of mind. Everything is possible. Yeah, let's do it. In Slovenia, okay, let's go in the public sector. There is a guaranteed job. We will work there, and we want to establish this connection with our system with Silicon Valley, so we can copy this state of mind from Silicon Valley and put it in our space. So what is actually our solution? It's a startup school that actually based on these 5 things. It's learning by doing, learning by coaching. On the other side, time pressure, grading, and all this is targeted through programs. We divided our programs through 3 phases. Start phase, when actually bring in our programs the students and the teams of students. They help them to define the segment, define the typical customer, and in the end, we help them to establish a minimum viable product. In the second class, we actually help them to sell or get the users. It depends if they are B2B, B2C sector. And the third class is actually this invest class, where they face them with the investors. We know them how the investor works. We prepare them the documentation, with them the documentation for the investors. And the last part is then we bring them here to Silicon Valley. And all these programs are pretty focused. So for example, the START programs are START Cloud. They're just focused on the cloud technology. START, I don't know, Web, just for the web part. And also, as I mentioned, GET is divided to B2C, B2B. So everything is focused to be as much as possible efficient. And if I'm going through these steps, learning by doing, we actually grab the book from Steve Blank, Startup Owner's Manual, and copy and make a toolbox of them, the useful tools that can be applied on the lectures. Actually, we have a tool. First, provide 45 minutes of lecture, then explain the tool. Then this tool, they use this tool for do the work in front of whiteboards, and in the end, they present the results to each other. And there is no need to just theorize. We think that it's also must be everything supported by the practice. And the second part is learning by coaching. So when the teams present each other the results, their companies, their ideas, they learn a lot because they are on the same level, they struggle with the same problems, and they basically present each other each case studies. We found out also that too much mentors, it's not okay, because a lot of accelerators, incubators have a wide space of mentors. But we found out that too much mentors, they just mess the team. They don't know what we're doing. We are now they come from our program they attend also for the other programs. They come back and said, you know, I heard too much opinion. I don't know what to do. What now? So we found out that the best practice is to have each company 1 or 2 mentors that they know the company, they follow the company, and they bring it step by step through whole phases. And the next stage is grading. We want to provide, we want to grade everything. Everybody grades and comments to each other, to everything. And so we can measure what's going on with the teams, with the mentors, with the lectures, with the tools. And we put this in that way that all grades, if they're coming from the students or from the mentors, are the same. We even build an app for that. So we can easily provide and measure everything. And we also provide some competitions that winner takes all. So we want to push them and focus them to success. And in the end, it's also the pressure. All this grading part, it's under the pressure. We measure the time. We have strictly amount of time that can present, that can comment on this presentation. And this provides them the stress, because this usual part of stress is useful because they learn much more efficient. They learn efficiently if they are under stress. So I'm probably right now also under stress, so I will learn a lot. And this timing, this measuring, also allows us to be strictly by the time. So we think that this school or this system will work also on various teams, not just the startups. But we're thinking that in the first phase in Slovenia, we need an ecosystem. And we think that these tools, that kind of school can build an ecosystem. And also, startups are pretty much good early adopters. They going through this phase for themselves, so they understand also our mistakes, and together we can build this ecosystem. And what we do so far, in last 2.5 years, we've gone, through our programs, gone over 100 startups. Over 30 of them we'll bring them to the Silicon Valley, and for them they got over $5 million of investment. Also, some of them are here today, are Bubra. They make your wishes come true. And what's now? We're actually now bootstrapping our school. We're not government supported. We're now in the phase that we found the problem. We're now testing the solution, and the next phase for us will be to set up a business model. We think that this will be through fund. We want to establish a fund that it's not just a Slovenian fund, but it's a regional fund, also connected with investors here in Silicon Valley. And we think that will be the next step. Here are some pictures. This is Christian, my co-founder. He's a serial entrepreneur. He started with his 18s with first company. The last one also secured investment from Silicon Valley, and so he's got a lot of experience at that area. And we started on university to lecture and teach. The second one is also Philip on the right side. He's a two-time World University Debate champion, and he helped us to focus the teams, to pitch the teams. And on the left side, you can see Andraž Tori, which is also one of our mentors, and he's an entrepreneur in Slovenia. Maybe you heard about company Zemanta, help the bloggers. And that interviews are also part of our sessions. That looks our lectures, some of the workshops. We have rooms full covered with boards, whiteboards, so the companies can write down their work. Also, we have guests as a fund managers that they present also their funds and what they need, what they look like, on how they look like the companies, so the companies can be more better prepared for the VCs. And at the end, at each program, we have demo days. Sometimes some investors also start talking with the teams on these demo days in Slovenia. And the next phase is that we bring them to the Silicon Valley. These are the picture of the first generation of some of them for the first generation in Silicon Valley. Here are also some guys from Slovenia that is here on Stanford. Two of them also sitting here, Tim and Sara, and Jure Leskovic is a professor here on Stanford. So we want to not just bring them to the Silicon Valley, but also connect them with the people in Silicon Valley, not just Slovenians, but also the others. And these are the demo days in Silicon Valley. We usually do with one of incubator here. This is with Opino, and these were the investors. 4 months ago, we rent a house, actually one flat in this house. This house is on Howard Street in San Francisco, because we want a nest, a place where entrepreneurs can then can work, live, and also have demo days there. We now have partners and groups not just from Slovenia, but also Croatia. We're now expanding in Bulgaria. And on the horizon, whoa, what's happened with phones? We want to actually establish an ecosystem. That's our main goal. And that could be the next step or the next university that can efficiently delivers the knowledge to the students, and the results are new successful companies, not just from Slovenia, but we want to unite the whole region, and the whole region connect with Silicon Valley. We cannot copy Silicon Valley, we know that, but we think that strong connection will help us. Thank you.
So first of all, I'd like to thank Tomaž for getting us back on time. Excellent, thank you very much. Peter and Tomaž, if you both come forward, and we'll take some Q&A. First question. Nobody has a question?
Yes, here.
Go ahead, please.
So this is a question that applies, I think, to both of your environments. Actually, I've met Andrade, a very nice guy, and I've actually had a lot of friends in Sweden who work in innovation ecosystem, whether for startups or big companies, or actually as people teaching innovation in universities. And the question I have for both of you is, you mentioned mentality a little bit. One thing that didn't come out in the Swedish presentation is there's an element of Swedish culture that says that you should do well, but not too well.
Yeah, that's correct.
You should not stand out, you should not be too successful, that you may be doing something wrong. And actually with Slovenia's history, that may be a factor too. So to what extent do you find that that is a barrier? Because we talk to a lot of our, my wife and I talk to a lot of our Swedish friends, and we find that that's an issue that comes up a lot.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's an issue that comes up a lot. So that term in Swedish it's called lagom. So this is something that defines our culture. So everything should be medium. So we don't like spicy food. So we like food that it's tasted well lagom, so medium, right? So we are trying to avoid the extremes. So we are trying to avoid the conflicts. And that's definitely something that will define the Swedish culture. And obviously, when you are doing business, so you need to shoot high. So you need to think big, right? And indeed, so that's indeed sometimes an impediment. So that we as an entrepreneurs, so we are trying actually to fight against it. So here in Silicon Valley, it's really great to say that, well, I want to become a millionaire, right? So I'm shooting for a multi-billion-dollar company. So in Sweden, so we think a little bit more like along those lines, so that you have mentioned. So we should be successful, right? And that's indeed so that's something that defines our culture.
It's the same in Slovenia, but also Slovenians, we have one other that we bring from the past, and that is that we usually work for the others. Usually just subcontractors for the German companies, and the people are not used to bring or establish their own companies and be their own bosses, or just work on the demand that the others can dictate. So we think that this is also in our culture, and this think big philosophy, it's quite a challenge too.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you both, Peter and Tomaž, for your presentations. My question is for Tomaž, actually. I didn't really get how you recruit the entrepreneurs to the startup. How do you get your deal flow? Since is it a university program and they can apply for the curriculum, or is it a startup accelerator where they come with ideas? How does it work? We not just take the students and just students bring to whole levels. We just take the companies in the certain level. They come, they just bring they build a product, and we accept them in the GET program, for example, or in the Boundbreaker. It's an accelerator, but it's not this usual accelerator. It's more a school accelerator, but it's not a university. It's something in between. Because it's kind of cool to convert students and start working with them and making them into kind of entrepreneurs from nothing, basically. That's what I thought you were doing a little bit.
Yeah, but they must have an idea. They must have a vision what they want to achieve. Because if they just came with, yeah, I'd like to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know what to do, we can not help them.
Thank you.
And we do only this with the co-founders, only the people that decide. Because if there are just one guy there that they work for the other guys, for the, I don't know, for their employer, they are just employed,
we cannot help them because they cannot make the right decisions and to change or pivot or something.
Right up in the back.
Question more generally about Sweden. What would you say that the impact of global companies that are coming out of Sweden, like Spotify, Univ, etc., has been in the general ecosystem? Like, has it inspired more people to try entrepreneurship? Or
Yeah, definitely. So they are very good examples of inspiring people of trying entrepreneurship, and we are very proud of them. So, and well, we are also very proud of our big companies, as you have seen from our first presentation, and definitely that's a very inspiring for us as an entrepreneurs.
But may I also add that another important thing of that is that now we have some serial entrepreneurs, because some that have done many trips, you know, in the entrepreneurial world. This is something which Silicon Valley has, you know, multitude of, but in Sweden we're just now getting to the point where we have several people that have, you know, done it several times, and that have also had successful exits, which of course provides, you know, the necessary seed money from private investors that we've also been lacking, I think. So we're slowly developing an ecosystem, you know, but slowly.
And we are hiring good people.
Sure.
You said you've had some success in bringing companies here and raising money. What kind of companies? What profiles? What areas?
There are different. Some of them really, right now, this is the last generation. We have some really good stuff, really good spin-offs from university. But till now, we have some web projects, mobile apps, and one clean tech company. That's basically it. We just bring in this last program just the companies that can succeed also in Silicon Valley, not all companies. We're pretty much focused on Silicon Valley stuff that is interesting here.
Are those companies establishing here before getting the funding, or are those companies getting funded still being?
Most of the companies get funded in Slovenia or in Europe, and they have established the company there. But if there's some company, if their investor want to establish the company, I don't know, in Delaware, they are able to move here or to establish the companies here, and the company in the Slovenia became subsidiary for that. Because I'm not maybe mentioned so much, but we have really good researchers and really good engineers in Slovenia, but we don't have these entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs that know what they're doing. We don't have product managers. Then this connection between market is weak in Slovenia.
My question is for Sweden. How do you choose the project in which you wanted to fund? Do you have any strategy or anything? How do you visionize, okay, I'll go fund this project and go forward with it for the startups or?
Let me clarify a little bit, so also about my background. So I'm not teaching entrepreneurship, so I'm teaching computer science at the university, and I was teaching computer science, so I was a computer science professor. Usually I identify the interesting projects, so during the interaction with the students, part of my research, part of my colleagues' research. Then we were sitting together, we were brainstorming, we were seeing the potential, and we decided, well, let's start a business from this. And this is exactly how we have identified it. So, from our everyday work, so, and try to actually to grow a company from our research. And what I can tell you, so there is much more over there, so buried in research publications in some corner of some of the computer science or electrical engineering department that actually has the potential of becoming the next multi-billion-dollar company. But somebody needs to actually to go there and to lift it, right? So to bring it to the market.
Some cultures are certainly more risk adverse than others. How would you rate your countries based on?
On risk. It's for us. It's maybe I answer on the other way. I think that for us is the only way, because we are so small. Slovenia is 2 million people. That's one block here. And so small market that even this market strategy for scale-up, you cannot approve it in Slovenia. You must go immediately outside. Because we are now talking with, for example, Poland. They can develop the company that turnaround is about 5 million, 6 million, and they're still on Poland. We cannot achieve that. So our strategy is pretty simple. We want the best one to bring here to Silicon Valley, to succeed here, and then go back to Slovenia and maybe develop there. So if you're asking about the risk in our area, we are in part of European Union, and all this legislation is handled pretty well. But we think that a great opportunity, because of state of mind especially, is here.
Let me also add to this question. Well, we are very risk aware. So, and I think that all the Europe, it's extremely risk aware. So compared to the United States. Being a startup, so that's exactly what it means. So to risk it, right? And sometimes, again, so this is an impediment. So this is something that we are fighting against. So as entrepreneurs, so that make people a little bit more willing to accept the risk, because, well, it goes together with the definition of the startup. So it's not a smaller, bigger company that we are trying to create. So we are trying to create a startup so that should grow and should obviously, the only way of doing that, so it's going to risk. But it's our part of the culture to reject risk.
At the end, it's the state of mind problem. If you can solve this, other small things will solve.
Last official question.
Yeah, how do you think the Swedish social welfare system affects entrepreneurship? I mean, if you fail badly and you end up bankrupt, you don't end up on the street. Do you think that hinders innovation?
Yeah, that's correct. So you will not, if you fail, so you will not end up on the street. So right. So in that perspective, so well, the social welfare so will take care of you. So the problem is something else actually, that failure is not as easily accepted in the European society as here in the United States, right? So here, when I have a discussion with my colleagues and with my friends from Silicon Valley, so some of them, they are bragging about their companies that failed, right? And, well, I bankrupted 3 companies and so on. So, and they can still go and pitch for the VCs, because they will tell you that, well, okay, so you failed, so you probably know not to do next time, right? In Europe, so, well, if you failed, so you got that stigma, right? So there's a stamp on you, so that, well, this guy so already bankrupted the company. So, and you might not get a second chance.
Okay, so we're out of time. I'm sure that everybody will hang around for a few minutes if somebody wants to come down and ask a particular question. But can you join me right now in thanking our speakers, particularly those that traveled so far?